Celebrating April Fool's Day is just a waste of time, my mother-in-law snapped. Was she implying my daughter was a fool and that celebrating her was pointless? It was unbelievable, especially since she had planned her own birthday party. It became clear that today's party wasn't meant to be a joint celebration with my daughter. It was all about her. When I looked at my husband, I noticed his body trembling slightly. He must be seething with anger, I thought. But then, to my astonishment, he smiled and agreed with my mother-in-law's words. I was shocked by his response. Why wouldn't he stand up for our daughter after such an insult? Instead, he sided with her. It made me question my husband. But then, what he did next almost made me burst out laughing. My name is Hannah, a 30-year-old stay-at-home mom. 3 years ago, a coworker named Tom, 2 years my senior, confessed his feelings for me. Tom was kind and reliable, always quick to cover for me when I made a mistake and specific in his praises. I was attracted to him, but given his popularity among the female staff, I had almost given up hope. So when he confessed, I was over the moon. As we continued dating, I realized Tom was not only kind and reliable, but also incredibly sincere. He surprised me by revealing that he had liked me since joining the company, which filled me with joy. After 3 years of dating, I discovered I was pregnant with Tom's baby. Nervously, I told him the news. He hugged me and said, "Having a baby doesn't mean we have to get married. I've wanted to marry you from the start. I plan to love you and our baby with all my heart. So will you let me propose to you again?" Later, he gave me a ring and asked, "Will you marry me?" I was moved to tears by his sincerity and kindness, and I looked forward to our future together as a family. We decided to get married and immediately informed both families. My parents were surprised we were expecting a child, but relieved that Tom was the father. They were looking forward to meeting the baby. Next, we went to meet Tom's parents. I noticed a shadow cross Tom's face, but I brushed it off, thinking it was natural to be nervous about announcing our marriage and pregnancy. This was my first visit to his parents' home, and I was surprised to see a luxury car parked in front. "Hannah, sorry, my brother's here too," Tom said. "No, it's okay," I replied, feeling a bit more nervous, but strengthened by Tom's presence. I hadn't pried much into Tom's family, so I was surprised to hear he had a brother. "Tom, you have a brother?" I asked. "Yeah, his name's Sean. He's 3 years older, works at a brokerage firm, and is incredibly successful. I'm really proud of him," Tom explained, clearly admiring his brother. We were invited inside and sat across from his parents, brother, and his wife. Tom carefully explained our marriage and pregnancy, and amidst the tense atmosphere, we bowed our heads together. "Tom, you're going to be a solid dad for Hannah and the baby," his father said with a gentle smile, softening the mood. I felt relieved, and Tom's brother and his wife also congratulated us. But the relief was short-lived. My mother-in-law's cold words pierced the air. "Sean did everything right. He had a wedding before making babies. But you, Tom," her tone was low and disapproving. Tom responded firmly, "I'm not marrying Hannah just because we're having a baby. I've wanted to marry her from the start." "You can say whatever you want, but a shotgun wedding is disgraceful," she retorted. "Ivan, you shouldn't talk like that. It's called a blessing wedding these days. We got to hear about a marriage and a pregnancy at the same time. Isn't that happy news?" Tom's father chided her, but the room remained silent. The tension was finally broken by Tom's brother's son, John, who asked, "Mom, can I play my game?" His mother replied, "You were just playing, weren't you? Come on, play over here with Mom." "Everyone, I'm so sorry." Tom's sister-in-law, Mirabel, opened the door and led her son, John, into the next room. "Oh, right. Grandma got a new game for you, John," my mother-in-law said before following them. From beyond the door, we could hear her cheerful voice and John's joyful thanks. "Grandma, thank you. I love you," he exclaimed. "Mother, thank you for everything. You even bought him a new toy last time," Mirabel added. "It's okay. I'm doing it because I want to," my mother-in-law replied, her voice kind and gentle, a stark contrast to the sharp tone she had used with us. Hearing this, I felt a glimmer of relief. Perhaps my mother-in-law wasn't thrilled about the circumstances of our marriage, but I hoped that once our child was born, she would dote on them. I was optimistic about building a good relationship moving forward. After greeting both sets of parents, Tom and I quickly registered our marriage. About a year later, I safely gave birth to our daughter, Natalie. Hannah, thank you. I'm going to work even harder at my job, Tom said, his eyes shining with love and determination. Thank you. I'll give my all to raise our first child too. Let's raise her with all the love we can give, I replied. Tom, now a husband and dad, smiled tenderly and kissed both Natalie and me on the forehead. Oh, how adorable. She's so cute. I could gaze at her forever without getting tired, my parents exclaimed as they held Natalie, their eyes crinkling with joy. Tom's finally a dad now, my mom teased. Yes, I've been moved the whole time, you know. Tom just won't let anyone else hold her. He's always holding her, I added with a chuckle. Hey, Hannah, don't spill the beans to your in-laws, Tom said, feigning annoyance. Tom, you're going to have a hard time when Natalie gets a boyfriend, my mom teased again. Hey, mother, please don't make me think about that yet, Tom replied in a panic. Tom, when you came to ask for Hannah's hand, I was indeed shocked, my dad admitted. I'm sorry, Tom responded sheepishly. Oh, don't worry about it. That's how it is with fathers. Thanks for giving us such a cute granddaughter, my dad concluded, filling the room with warm laughter. Seeing my daughter so loved, my heart was filled with unparalleled happiness. When we took Natalie to see her paternal grandparents, my father-in-law joyously held her, saying, "This is my first time holding a baby girl." However, my mother-in-law simply remarked, "I see," without attempting to hold Natalie. Having seen her warm and gentle with John, I was surprised she didn't show the same enthusiasm for Natalie, expecting her to rejoice like my parents did. "When are Sean and his family coming?" she asked, devoting her attention to the calendar and avoiding looking at Natalie. "Next Saturday, right?" "But now, let's enjoy the visit from Tom, Hannah, and Natalie," my father-in-law responded. "Right, Hannah, you must be tired. I'll make some tea," my mother-in-law offered, heading to the kitchen. "Oh, thank you," I replied, puzzled by her behavior. Not holding Natalie and talking about Sean and John without Sean and Mirabel present, my mother-in-law seemed like a different person compared to how she acted around them. I recalled our visits to Tom's parents' house before Natalie was born, when it was just Tom and me. We were never offered tea, but when Sean's family was there, delicious cakes and fine tea always seemed to be prepared. It was clear that my mother-in-law treated Sean and Tom differently. I felt a slight unease every time we visited, but Tom said nothing, and I kept telling myself I was probably overthinking it. We shouldn't assume we're not welcome. After all, when we were working together, Tom often said, "You shouldn't jump to conclusions at work." Despite it being the first time we brought Natalie to visit, she wasn't held. I reassured myself that my mother-in-law must be busy and that once Natalie was as big as John, she'd surely dot on her too. Still, my unease persisted as we continued interacting with my husband's family. "How about we all go to the church together on Christmas?" my father-in-law suggested. "Let's do fireworks on the 4th of July, my brother-in-law added. We spent every Christmas and summer family gathering at my husband's home, always buzzing with activity. Natalie was still small, needing breastfeeds and baby food, so I was practically glued to her the whole time. Tom was actively involved with Natalie and supported me, making our time at his family's home not feel burdensome. As usual, my mother-in-law was fully focused on her grandson John. I figured she preferred engaging with him since he was more interactive than the still very young Natalie. Despite feeling uneasy about the different ways my mother-in-law treated her sons and grandchildren, nothing definitive happened, so I continued our visits as usual. When Natalie was about 2 years old, my father-in-law suddenly passed away from a heart attack. The abrupt loss of the man who had lovingly expressed his desire to see Natalie in a school uniform or even a wedding dress hit us hard. Tom and his brother were visibly distressed, struggling to hold back tears. I felt it wasn't my place to cry when Tom was trying so hard to be strong, so I suppressed my tears. Amidst the grieving, my mother-in-law was the most devastated. After being informed of her husband's death by the doctor, she spent the whole night crying beside his cold body. She was too exhausted to serve as a pallbearer, so her brother-in-law was assigned to the role. After the funeral, my mother-in-law ended up living alone in the house she had shared with my father-in-law. The day after the funeral, Tom's phone started ringing more frequently with calls from his mother. Tom dutifully answered every call, listening to her talk. The calls weren't just filled with complaints. She also asked for favors, like buying things, mailing packages, or changing a light bulb, which became almost daily tasks. Tom diligently responded to all these requests, and within just a month after the funeral, he looked utterly exhausted. Our quiet time together after Natalie went to bed was also interrupted by calls from his mother, reducing our conversations. One night around 10 p.m., as usual, Tom's phone rang. "Mom again," my husband muttered, glancing at the caller ID on his phone. I quickly snatched the phone from Tom's hand and answered the call myself. "Hello, Mother. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Tom is currently preparing documents for tomorrow's work. If it's all right with you, I can listen on his behalf." "Is that her?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. I spent about 30 minutes on the phone with my mother-in-law, mostly listening to her complaints. It started with grievances about the neighbors and somehow extended to celebrities. Just when I thought she had run out of complaints, she began reminiscing about my father-in-law's life, praised my brother-in-law Sean as a great son, and even shared her views on parenting. After the call, Tom looked at me with gratitude. "Hannah, that must have been tough. Sorry for making you listen to Mom's complaints." "It's okay. Actually, I'm sorry for making you handle your mom all by yourself until now," I responded. With preschool preparations settling down and Natalie's health stabilizing, I can take over. I think I'll have more time once preschool starts. "Hannah, thank you. I'm really glad I married you, but don't overdo it, okay?" Tom said, concerned. "Thanks, I'll do what I can. You're busy with work, right? And you've just been appointed leader of a major project. You said you wanted to do your best, and I want to support you," I assured him. "Thanks. Tomorrow, I'll buy a tart from your favorite store. Let's enjoy it together." So I began handling the tasks and errands my mother-in-law requested, stepping in for my busy husband. One day, when I delivered some items to her as usual, she mentioned, "By the way, Sean said they can't make it for the summer holidays this year, so you guys don't have to bother coming either. It's hard to travel in the heat with a child." "Understood," I replied. Until now, whenever there were major events like Christmas or the summer holidays, Sean's family and ours would always visit together. But this year, since Sean's family couldn't make it, we were told it wasn't necessary for us to come either. I appreciated that my mother-in-law considered Natalie's condition, but this wasn't a one-time occurrence. Whenever Sean's family couldn't come, she would tell us it was okay not to visit. I thought perhaps she wanted some peace and quiet, and didn't think much of it, considering it might be nice to have a break from visiting. One day, after buying items my mother-in-law requested, I went to her house. The items she asked for were often not easy to obtain, honestly quite a hassle. She'd want bread from a supermarket an hour's drive away or clothes from a department store. Requests like these came almost every 3 days. Today, she wanted baked goods from a bakery in the next county, so after dropping Natalie at preschool, I drove there to get them. It was challenging, but I couldn't imagine the pain of losing a loved one, and if I refused, the burden would fall on Tom. So I couldn't say no to my mother-in-law's requests. "Mother, I've bought what you asked for," I called out as I entered the foyer. "Oh my, you're here already. I'm coming," she replied, emerging from her usual room. As she came out, I caught a glimpse of 2 boxes wrapped in gift paper through the gap in the sliding door. It was wrapping paper from a toy store. A hunch crossed my mind. Natalie's birthday is in 2 weeks. Could it be that my mother-in-law prepared birthday gifts for Natalie? Maybe I was too quick to assume she only favored my brother-in-law Sean's family and John. It seems she does care for our daughter too. I was delighted by this realization. "Hannah, could you keep the Sunday after next free? That day is the day before Natalie's birthday." At that moment, I was convinced my mother-in-law intended to celebrate our daughter's birthday. "Of course, we'll come over, all 3 of us." I was so happy that I recounted everything to Tom when he came home from work. I think mother-in-law wants to celebrate Natalie. She must have gone out to buy the gifts herself. So, Tom, we're good for the Sunday after next, right? Let's have a joint birthday party for Natalie and mother-in-law, whose birthdays are close. Yeah, let's do that, Tom agreed after a moment's thought. Oh, and she's asked for a favor that day too. On the day of our daughter's 4th birthday, we headed to my mother-in-law's house, which was serving as the venue for today's birthday party, carrying her favorite luxury Mont Blanc cake. Another favor from my mother-in-law was to buy this Mont Blanc from a cake shop an hour and a half drive away. I want the Mont Blanc from that shop. It's my birthday, after all, and I want to eat something delicious, she had said, pointing out a specific bakery. It was known for its long lines and popularity, with whole cakes impossible to reserve. Anticipating the crowd, we drove out early in the morning to purchase the Mont Blanc she requested. We saved the character cake for Natalie's actual birthday and decided to bring the Mont Blanc for the celebration. I prepared myself for the birthday celebration at my mother-in-law's house. We're here. Thank you, Tom. Hannah, my sister-in-law Mirabel, greeted us warmly as we arrived. From the back of the house, we could hear the cheerful voices of my mother-in-law and John. Sorry we're late, I said, feeling a bit flustered. It's okay. It must have been hard going all the way to that bakery to buy the Mont Blanc, Mirabel whispered sympathetically, furrowing her brows. We set the side dishes we brought on the large table, and the joint birthday party for Natalie and my mother-in-law began. In the center of the table, we placed the Mont Blanc cake my mother-in-law had specified, which we bought early in the morning after lining up. Next to it was the homemade cake for Natalie. In the portrait hanging there, my father-in-law smiled gently. Happy birthday, Natalie and Mom. My brother-in-law initiated the toast, and my mother-in-law responded with a soft smile. Thank you very much. As the meal began, my mother-in-law sat next to John, doting on him attentively. Do you want Grandma to get you some shrimp? It's tasty, isn't it? Despite John being in the 3rd grade, my mother-in-law still talked to him in baby talk. My sister-in-law watched this with a wry smile. Mom, John can eat by himself, my brother-in-law gently reminded her. She replied with a soft smile. Oh, let me pamper him. Grandchildren are there to be spoiled. By the way, Sean was already studying 2 grades above at John's age, so John must be smart like his dad. Mom, really? My brother-in-law said, blushing slightly as laughter filled the room. Seeing my daughter fidgeting, I whispered, What's up? She whispered back, When should I give it? For today's birthday party, Natalie had drawn a portrait for my mother-in-law. Excuse me, mother-in-law, Natalie has something she wants to give you. Go on, Natalie, give it to Grandma now. Natalie shyly took out the drawing from her backpack and handed it over, saying, Here you go. The drawing was rolled up and tied with a ribbon. When unrolled, it revealed a portrait of my mother-in-law with a heart drawn on it. It was Natalie's idea to make the gift, not prompted by me or my husband. She had drawn it herself the night before. I hope Grandma likes it, she had said, showing me the portrait with pure excitement. Grandma will definitely love it, I reassured her, patting her back. Everyone was smiling as they watched Natalie give her present to my mother-in-law, but the next moment, my mother-in-law's reaction left me in disbelief. Can you just put it over there? Instead of taking the drawing or even looking at it, she just nodded towards a corner of the room with her chin. The atmosphere in the room immediately tensed up. There's something I wanted to give too, my mother-in-law said in a cajoling tone amidst the tense silence. She seemed oblivious to the mood, quickly slipping into the next room and returning with 2 boxes wrapped in toy store paper. She handed them to my brother-in-law's son John. I couldn't believe it. Weren't those gifts meant for Natalie? Even John looked perplexed, while Natalie stood there on the verge of tears. I went over to my daughter and hugged her tightly. What's wrong? Look, it's a present from Grandma, my mother-in-law said to John in a sweet voice, but the air remained tense. My husband broke the silence. Mom, John's birthday is still far off. And what about Natalie? She thought of and prepared something for you all by herself. Not taking it, not even looking at it. What are you thinking? It was the first time I'd ever heard him speak with such anger. Oh my mother-in-law scoffed, then began to unleash her pent-up feelings. Why should I spend my money on your child? I only want to spend money on successful children. Sean was always brilliant, unlike you. I was always willing to spend any amount on him. Even now, I want to do everything I can for Sean and his son John. But Tom, you've always been a fool, haven't you? Bad at studies and sports alike. I've always found it painful to spend money on such a fool. All the money and time I spent on you, I wished I could have spent it on Sean. Spending money on smart kids and not on fools is the smart way to use money. Her words filled me with rage, and what she said next nearly pushed me over the edge. Celebrating a fool's day is just a waste of time, she spat out disdainfully. Was she calling my daughter a fool and saying that celebrating her birthday was a waste? I couldn't believe it, especially since she had planned the birthday party herself. So the birthday party today wasn't meant to be a joint celebration with my daughter, it was solely for her own birthday from the start. When I looked at my husband, I could see his body trembling slightly. He must be seething with anger, I thought, as I looked at his face. But then he did something that made me doubt my eyes. He suddenly agreed with my mother-in-law's words with a smile. I was shocked by his response. Why wouldn't he stand up for us after being insulted like that? Far from retaliating, he even agreed with her. However, what my husband did next almost made me burst out laughing. He suddenly started eating the luxury Mont Blanc cake from the famous shop, the whole cake my mother-in-law had been looking forward to the most. Scooping and eating, he quickly consumed half of it. As my husband devoured the cake, my mother-in-law was trembling and begging, "Stop, please stop it." But my husband didn't stop eating until he finished the entire cake. "Wait, Tom. That was supposed to be my cake. Why are you eating it? Sean, don't just stand there. Say something to this idiot. I've been looking forward to eating this cake. This is too much." My mother-in-law pleaded with my brother-in-law and his wife, but they, along with their son John, looked at her as if she was something incomprehensible. Addressing my raging mother-in-law, my husband finally spoke up. "Celebrating a fool's day is a waste of time, right? Then wouldn't it be a waste of time for some fool to eat this cake? So I ate it for you. This whole birthday party was a waste of time if it was just for you. What is this?" Speaking to the parent who raised you in that tone, my mother-in-law retorted angrily to my husband's cold voice. I frowned, incredulous that she dared to claim she raised him after treating him so differently. Raised? All you did was use me as an outlet for your stress. Whenever someone in the neighborhood insulted you or something you wanted was sold out, you waited for Sean to be a way to lash out at me with your screams. You always compared me to Sean, favoring him over me. But even though you discriminated between us, I never imagined you would do the same to my daughter. I agreed to this birthday party believing that despite being a difficult mother to me, you'd be a good grandmother to Natalie. But to act like this, don't joke with me. The daughter of a foolish son is bound to be a fool, especially a child born out of wedlock. A fool's child and a foolish girl's child are bound to be fools. I don't want to be a grandmother to such a foolish child. I would never want to meet her. My mother-in-law's words, spat out with venom, filled me with dismay. How could she say something so horrible? I didn't want my daughter to hear any more of her grandmother's cruelty, so I took Natalie and John to the back room. John had an indescribable look on his face but gently stroked my crying daughter's head in silence. "I'm sorry, you two. Just stay here a bit longer," I said, closing the door behind me and standing beside my husband to confront my mother-in-law. "So why have you been calling me lately, making Hannah handle phone calls and errands? It was all meaningless stuff, wasn't it? You say you don't want to be involved with us, but your actions are all over the place. Meal tasks are for fools to handle. It would be outrageous to bother Sean and his family with such things. Besides, you're only good for those tasks, so just do them quietly," she retorted. My husband remained calm, giving her a cold look as he muttered, "So that's your true feelings. Of course, if Sean's family isn't coming. I don't even want to see the faces of you fools," my mother-in-law sneered. "I thought having you around would be good for John, being around someone lower than him. If the three of you aren't coming, I don't want to see your faces." She laughed arrogantly, crossing her arms. I massaged my aching head as I noticed my brother-in-law and his wife looking stunned by her words. "All right, got it. Hannah, let's go home," my husband said, beginning to gather our things. "Tom, I'm sorry. I had no idea it was like this," my brother-in-law apologized. But my husband shook his head. "It's fine. It's not your fault. She's always been good at hiding this without Dad or you noticing," Tom said. My brother-in-law looked pale, possibly from guilt, but my husband offered him a kind smile. "That's right, Sean. You don't need to apologize. You were always the smart one, but it's because he was the fool that things turned out this way." "Mom, no, I don't even want to call you that anymore," Tom said, his voice firm. "Mirabel, let's go home." "What? What are you saying, Sean?" Mirabel asked, confused. "Don't just stand there, say something." My mother-in-law pleaded with her, but Mirabel stood up and ignored her. "I'll pack this up in containers for you to take home," Mirabel said, dividing the remaining food into 2 containers. "It's such good food. It would taste awful in this atmosphere. I also bought some things Natalie would like. Eat lots of it later. From now on, we're completely ignoring my mother-in-law. What are you two saying? After everything I've given you, land, cars, money, you won't stand by me. I honestly believed you when you said you shared everything equally with Tom. It was undeniably a help with the household finances, so I accepted it, but it turns out that wasn't true. I'll return whatever I can so we can sever ties with you." "Sean, are you out of your mind?" my mother-in-law shouted. While my brother-in-law and mother-in-law continued to argue, I spoke softly to my husband. "Tom, I'm sorry I didn't know about any of this. If he had such a childhood, it must have been hard going back to a home with a mother who belittles him." "Hannah, you don't have to apologize. She seemed to act normally around you, so I didn't see the need to worry you. My mom's favoritism continued even after I became an adult, but I like Sean, and once I moved out, I could distance myself from her, so it didn't bother me." Tom had always thought of others, sacrificing his own feelings in the process. "I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for him," I said softly. "I should be the one apologizing for not telling you about my mom." My husband lowered his eyebrows in apology, but I gently shook my head. His eyes grew serious as he spoke with conviction. "If she's going to treat our daughter the same way, that's a different story. I won't bring Natalie or you here ever again. Let's go, Hannah." As we left the house, it was clear that my brother-in-law had said something impactful, leaving my mother-in-law sobbing at the living room table. We took the opportunity to exit, accompanied by my brother-in-law and his wife. "John, thank you for always calming Natalie down," I said to the kind boy who had been comforting my daughter throughout the ordeal. "It's okay," John replied softly. Today's events must have been deeply troubling for John, witnessing the harsh reality of a grandmother he once thought was kind. Though he was only in the 3rd grade, he must have understood that being favored hurt Natalie. It pained me to see him uncertain and affected by it all, and I hoped this experience wouldn't leave a lasting scar on him. Once we were home and the front door was shut, my daughter finally spoke up, her voice small and trembling. "Daddy, Mommy, does Grandma hate me because I'm stupid?" We quickly shook our heads, denying her fears. "No, Natalie, you're not stupid at all. Daddy and Mommy love you very much," my husband said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "That's right," I added, hugging both my daughter and husband. "You were born loved by everyone. Tomorrow, you're turning 4, and we've reserved your favorite cake. We'll go pick it up together." "My favorite cake?" Natalie's face lit up with excitement as she heard about the strawberries on it. "Yes, with strawberries," I confirmed. Natalie seemed initially shocked by the thought that her grandmother disliked her, but as my husband and I reassured her of our love, her smile gradually returned. I felt a wave of relief as her joy resurfaced. I had been set on ending our relationship with my mother-in-law immediately after the incident, but just a few days after the birthday party, an unexpected event occurred. The doorbell rang incessantly before 6 o'clock a.m. I groggily checked the door monitor and saw my mother-in-law's figure. "What can I do for you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Open up. I need to talk to you." "Come out quickly," she demanded, her voice loud and insistent. Concerned about disturbing the neighbors, I went to the door but decided to keep her outside so my daughter wouldn't see her. Finally, she said, "Listen, I can't get in touch with Sean and his family." I went to their house, but they refused to let me in and said something terrible to me. After begging my brother-in-law to reconsider his decision to cut ties, they told me not to come back. JN doesn't want to see me either. Hannah, please come with me. Talk to Sean and his family for me. I'll even forgive how they treated me. I was taken aback. After all the hurtful things she had said about my husband and the pain she had caused our daughter, she had the nerve to ask for my help. I took a deep breath and addressed her calmly. "You have no idea how wonderful Tom is. He's essential at his company, kind, reliable, smart, and well-liked by his co-workers. But you've only insulted him and caused trouble for us. I've despised every call and request from you. Your celebrity gossip and constant errands were burdensome, and despite your claims of struggling after losing your husband and me, please leave." She responded with outrage. "You don't get to dictate terms to me. Who do you think you are?" she shouted, her voice rising. Just then, the front door clicked open. It was my husband, who had taken the day off for our move and was home today. We had been preparing to move somewhere completely free from my mother-in-law's interference, and today was the day. "Why are you here?" he asked, his tone cold. "Oh, you're here. You're the reason Sean and the others have cut me off. What are you going to do about it?" she raged. "Don't involve yourself with someone who brings misfortune," my husband said firmly, pulling me inside and locking the door behind us. "Hannah, come inside. I'm locking the door." My mother-in-law banged on the door, causing a commotion in front of the apartment. Her ranting grew increasingly frantic. As her shouting reached a fever pitch, I considered calling the police. I heard the distant wail of a patrol car's siren, which grew louder until it stopped nearby. The commotion of unfamiliar voices and my mother-in-law's shrill screams filled the air. Her disturbance was so intense that I could hear the officers trying to restrain her and discussing the possibility of taking her away. When her voice finally faded, the intercom rang again. I answered the door and thanked the police officer for their assistance, apologizing for the disturbance. I provided them with the necessary details about my relationship with my mother-in-law as best as I could. After the incident, my husband and I moved without revealing our new address, effectively cutting ties with her. My brother-in-law and his wife returned the car and the monetary gifts they had received, and they too moved to a new location, ensuring they did not disclose their new address. They returned the land they had been given and ended their communication with her, changing their phone numbers to further sever ties. Left alone, my mother-in-law sought help from her siblings. However, none of them were willing to take on the responsibility of caring for her. They were all dealing with their own challenges and were reluctant to accommodate her demands. Despite her attempts to impose on them and even pressure their daughters-in-law and grandchildren, they threatened her with institutional care if she did not adjust her attitude. Determined to live in a luxury nursing home with abundant services, my mother-in-law used her considerable inheritance from her deceased parents and father-in-law to secure a spot. Despite her disdain for everyone but Sean and her aversion to spending money, she insisted on maintaining a lavish lifestyle. At the nursing home, her difficult demeanor made her unpopular among the staff and other residents. She complained incessantly, which led to her being avoided and marked as a troublemaker. Her tyrannical behavior quickly became a non-issue as she was largely ignored. With no family, siblings, or relatives visiting her, her dementia worsened rapidly, rendering her easier to manage but leaving her unable to remember even basic details about herself. Eventually, her siblings adjusted the payment method for her care, opting to withdraw funds from her assets rather than burden themselves financially. My mother-in-law now lives in a luxury nursing home, her remaining days marked by a decline in her mental faculties. She no longer remembers Sean, whom she once favored, and spends her time lying in bed. For my husband, severing ties with his mother brought a remarkable change. Freed from the shadow of his mother's negative influence, he was promoted at work. His complexion brightened, and his motivation soared. With his inherent kindness and newfound confidence, he led his team to impressive achievements. Seeing him flourish and become happier was a tremendous relief for me. With a baby on the way, our family was expanding. "Natalie, you're going to be a big sister soon," I told her with excitement. "Yeah, I'm excited," she replied, looking forward to the change. "All right, Daddy will work even harder," my husband said. "You're already doing enough," I reassured him. "Just don't overdo it." Given our growing family, we moved to a larger apartment. Our relationship with Sean's family had deepened since the birthday party incident. Although I initially worried that they might sever ties with us as well, Sean remained an important brother to my husband. Without their mother's influence, they were able to reconnect and support each other. John also took on the role of a big brother, maintaining a close relationship with Natalie. Once Mirabel and I have settled after our deliveries, we're planning a big family trip to celebrate our new beginnings.